Commission Chairperson Garrett Gray speaking. Before we get started, I would ask that anyone joining us remotely, please be patient and respectful as we navigate the meeting remotely. I would appreciate if you could each mute your phones at this time. Thank you. In order for this meeting to run smoothly, I ask that you not speak out of turn and wait to be recognized before speaking. As a matter of protocol, please always state your first name when you begin to speak. During the various public hearings, I will recognize the petitioner at the appropriate time, and any questions from the public that were submitted to the Village Hall by noon today will also be heard. Those wishing to follow along with PowerPoint are encouraged to access the meeting through the Tinley Park television on YouTube, streaming live right now. At this time, allow me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Commissioner Lucas Engel. Commissioner Eduardo Manny.
Present.
Commissioner Tim Stanton. Commissioner Stanton. Commissioner Gatto.
Yes, here.
Commissioner Aitchison.
Yes.
Commissioner Vick.
Here.
Commissioner Gaskell.
Here.
Commissioner Kalo West. Okay. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Barbara Bennett, Commission Secretary.
Present.
Paula Walrick, Acting Community Development Director.
Present.
Dan Ritter, Senior Planner.
Present.
Priscilla Cordero, Business Development Manager. Priscilla, are you there?
You know, it's okay. She's there as a monitoring the meeting.
Attendee.
Not in official, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for clarification, is Commissioner Stanton and Commissioner West participating tonight?
No, they're not.
No.
Okay. Please note, throughout the meeting, we expect to have other individuals joining us via phone call pertaining to specific agenda items. Thank you in advance for your patience and cooperation throughout tonight's meeting, which is convening remotely via conference call. This open meeting of the Village of Tinley Park is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-07 issued March 16th, 2020, which suspends the Open Meetings Act provision to in-person attendance by members of a public body. Specifically, the Governor's Order 1 suspends the requirement in Section 2.01 that members of a public body must be physically present, and 2, suspends the limitations in Section 7 on when remote participation is allowed. The Open Meetings Act requires public bodies to allow for public comment. Therefore, this meeting will include public comment via the established protocol. Even if members of the public do not provide comment, participants are advised that people may be listening who do not provide comment, and those persons are not required to identify themselves. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by web or audio conference. All of the materials for this meeting are available on the Village of Tinley Park's website, and we recommend the members of the public follow the agenda as posted. The meeting is also live streamed through Tinley Park Television on YouTube. Before turning to the first item on the agenda, allow me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chairperson, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold your comments until your name is called. Also, remember to mute your phone when you're not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Also, begin your comment with your name to identify yourself. For any response or comment on any item, please wait until I yield the floor to you. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through me, taking first to identify yourself and then make your request. After the members have spoken, I will forward public comment as follows. The general public was provided the opportunity to submit comments until noon today by emailing their public comment to clerksoffice@tinleypark.org. Additionally, any individual had the opportunity to email the village and the clerk's office, email the village clerk's office by noon today if they wish to speak on an item during the meeting. For those individuals, a representative of the village will call them during the meeting to take their testimony. Finally, simple voice votes will be taken today by asking only if there are any commissioners who are opposed to the motion that has been made. Votes on the items motions will be conducted by roll call vote. Commission Secretary, please call the roll.
Stanton, Manny,
Present.
Gaskell, Jim Gaskell,
Here.
Vic,
Present.
Gatto,
Here.
Aitchison,
Present.
Engel,
Present.
West, Chairman Gray.
Present. Okay, let us now begin with the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 4th, 2020 meeting?
This is Commissioner Engel, so moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Manny. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Before we proceed, I would like to note that I do have confirmation of the 3 public hearing notices for tonight's meeting being published in the local newspaper as required by state law. The first item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Alexandra Vigas, the property owner, a map amendment rezoning from the zoning code for the property located at 16651 Teresa Lane. Upon annexation, the parcel is proposed to be zoned R6, medium density residential. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Engel, so moved.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Vic, I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Vic. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. Staff, at this time, please proceed with your presentation.
Sure. So this is the public hearing. We went through the workshop at the last meeting. There wasn't too many concerns with this project. As a background on this, the site was developed in 1996 under the assumption by both the developer and the village at that time that this was located in the village and that it was zoned R6 medium density residential. It's been since 1996. It's slipped past the village and has received village services. It even went through all of the Plan Commission processes back then. So meanwhile, this whole time it's been in unincorporated Cook County. So this has really been a staff-led effort here to get this fixed and kind of some loose ends tied here just to make sure that we're getting the correct property taxes for the services being received here, and that there's no delay in any services with the residents that live in there. So We worked with the petitioner, who is the sole owner of the property. It's a 4-unit apartment building that has the spaces for rent. So she's voluntarily requested the annexation, which will go to the village board. And then as part of that, rezoning it to R6 as well. It comes in as R1 kind of automatically, so it's up to you guys to kind of, as the plan commission, to review the zoning districts and see what the best zoning district is. So for this property, it's pretty clearly R6. If you kind of see the zoning map now, it's one puzzle piece missing there. And it would be the same zoning district as the surrounding property, as well as what they believed it to be zoned as when it was developed, so it would be fully conforming with that zoning. They're not proposing any changes to the building or the site. The only change from the original approved plan that went to the plan commission was the rear parking is a little bit different than what's shown on the site plan that was approved, and that was due to some neighbor complaints about the headlights. So that was changed slightly. Otherwise, the site's in conformance with those approved site plans. There's a couple pictures of the existing site, and that's all we have for our staff presentation. This is really just to get this into the village and zoned properly, just kind of a cleanup.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Thank you, Dan, for that presentation. I'll ask the commission at this time if anyone has any comments or discussion on this matter to speak up this time. Hearing none, the record will recognize that there are no comments. Does the petitioner wish to add any comments at this time? And I'm assuming there's nobody for the petitioner, is that correct, staff?
Correct, yes. They voluntarily annexed, but they've kind of left this to staff to shepherd it through the process, so they are not on the line.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Dan. Once again, commission, is there any further discussion on this matter? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. If there are not any further questions or discussion, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Oh, this is Commissioner Easement, so moved.
Commissioner Dan.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay.
Commissioner Dan.
Motion made by Commissioner Aitchison, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. This is Chairman Gray. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Staff, please review the standards for this request.
Sure, I won't go through each one of these. They're not even formal standards. They're really the LaSalle standards, which are used for assessing when rezonings are challenged in court, and these have kind of become the impromptu standards that are used. Really, this is just fitting in with the surrounding zoning, not causing any changes to the site or what it is or what it could be. And it doesn't really have any effect on any of the surrounding properties because it's already developed to that zoning district. So that's the summary of those standards.
Okay. So at this time, may I have a motion for approval on this request?
This is Commissioner Vick. I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the petitioner Alexandra Ligas, property owner, a rezoning map amendment upon annexation to the R6 medium-density residential zoning district for the property located at 16651 Teresa Lane, and adopt the findings of fact as proposed by village staff in the staff report dated June 18, 2020.
This is Commissioner Engel. I second that motion.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Vick, seconded by Commissioner Engel. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Manny,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. This item will go to the village board for the first reading for annexation and rezoning on Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. Moving on to item number 2, it's a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant James Baglioli on behalf of Delta Sonic Car Wash Systems Incorporated, the property owner, an amendment to the existing special use and variations to allow for the expansion of the Delta Sonic Detail Center and convenience store buildings on the property located at 6800 159th Street in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District. Site plan approval and a final plat approval will also be reviewed with this item. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Manny. So moved.
This is Commissioner Engel. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Manning, seconded by Commissioner Engel. This is Chairman Gray. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. Staff, please proceed with your presentation at this time.
Sure. My apologies, the slide says workshop, but this is the public hearing for this item. We had the workshop at the previous meeting. This is the Delta Sonic Car Wash, which is on the southwest corner of 159th Street and Oak Park Avenue. They're looking to do some expansion and some site development there. The existing site is in these pictures. They've done some minor kind of upgrades to the site already over the last year. So they've replaced the tanks, the pumps, the pump islands, the canopy I believe is new as well. So they've already kind of done some of the exterior side of this, and this is kind of their next step in kind of keeping this site updated and upgraded. So here's the proposed rendering of what they're looking to do. And it includes an expansion of the detail center, actually a tear down and then a new detail center that's significantly bigger than the one that's in the back of the site now. And then a very small expansion of the convenience store, which is really to be able, so they can expand the bathroom to be ADA compliant out there. The site was originally developed in 1988, and that had a special use in 1988. It was in 1995 when they put the rear addition for the detail center in. The site's zoned B3, which is our general business and commercial zoning district. To the north of the site is the Lutheran Cemetery, which is zoned B3. To the west is the church, which is zoned R2. To the south of this is B3 is the Brown's Chicken Building, and B2, which is the Golden Corral and the Menard Shopping Center. And then to the east of this is a Shell gas station, which is in the city of Oak Forest, and its zoning district is very similar to our B3 zoning district there. The proposed use here is again really just making some changes to modernize the site to kind of bring it up, help it meet some existing demands and better serve their customers. They're not looking at expanding any services, so right now they have fuel pumps, car wash, interior detailing, and a convenience store on the site. Again, no changes to those are gonna be offered here, and traffic is generally expected to stay the same, with the site improvements really there to kind of just help with site circulation, and help the overall appearance of the site, so. Gas stations are a special use in our business zoning districts, and when anything's expanded or changed, it requires a new special use, so that's why this is before you. Not only for the site plan approval, but also for that special use approval, because they're expanding the detail center and the convenience store. The convenience store is a 131 square foot addition. It's fairly small. It goes to the front. The front of the building, right now, it's currently just used for exterior storage. I believe they have propane tanks out there, so it's a small addition. That'll open up some room on the inside where they can expand their bathroom to be ADA compliant. The addition also helps the new register location have better visibility to the pumps. The largest kind of building change here to the exterior that you're gonna see is the detailing center, which will now be 7,834 square feet. So significantly bigger than the 2,456 square foot building that's up there now. So that will be set back 5 feet from the property lines, and that's a variation from our setbacks. For 10 feet from the north property line and 25 feet from the western property line. Seeing as how it's an odd shaped lot, so the exact determinations of the side and the rear yard are kind of odd if you're looking at the lot, because it's got a jog in it. But so it's 5 feet from those property lines, and expected to be enough room to maintain the building, construct the building, and then there's also fairly limited development expected from the adjacent church property. To the north is again the cemetery, and to the west is a fairly open area that's associated with the church. Site circulation wise is the other big thing. So with this, anyone that's from the area or drives through this area can tell you it's a busy site, it's a busy intersection, especially on days where there's a high demand for car washes. So one of the keys, the key changes here is we had them do a traffic study of the site and implement some of the changes that were recommended to help the site circulation. So the current setup has pay booths on the western side of this. That western access, it actually aligns with that curb cut, so kind of a safety and site circulation hazard there. So they've moved those up significantly. They tore down an existing kind of pre-wash area, and then that not only moves those pay booths out of that access point right there, but it also allows for additional stacking on the site. So again, it's very busy. They're very quick at getting cars through there, but there is a significant amount of stacking that happens through that site. So, and then on the east side of this property is they usually don't have much stacking for that detail center. However, there might be a few cars that show up at the same time. So that has been redesigned so that way the cars are in a designated area and they're not blocking the exit to the car wash or the entrance to the site on Oak Park Avenue. Sidewalks are being added along Oak Park Avenue and 159th Street, so that there'll be public sidewalks installed there. It'll also be run along 159th Street all the way to the first entrance to the church, and that gets into their shared parking agreement that they have with the church. There'll also be a private sidewalk connection that'll go to that parking lot as well. They're still working out the details of installing that private sidewalk connection on the church's property. The church has to review that, and they have a little bit of a process, so they haven't approved it yet, but Delta Sonic is committed to try and make that work with them and get that installed as well. So there could be two separate means there to go from the church parking lot over to this Delta Sonic site. As part of that, they need an easement. Part of the sidewalk runs onto the Delta Sonic property, so that'll be an easement for a public sidewalk that connects and allows the village to maintain and for the public to use that as a public sidewalk. So that's part of what you're approving today is that plat of easement for the sidewalk. Landscaping wise is the other kind of big item that we've tried to address here. The site's fairly bare right now with kind of just some minor shrubs around the sign and around some of the light poles that are on the site, but we've really tried to get them to beef up the site landscaping, make it look good. So they've added over 40 trees to the site, including parkway trees as well as private trees in there. Then they have a variety of shrubs placed around the site as well. And there's, with any kind of infill or redevelopment site, we're trying to get them as close to the code as possible, but with a lot of these, there's only so much room you can really do stuff without it becoming a pretty significant expense or really changing the entire site layout. So I think we've kind of pushed here to fill in any available space with good landscaping, and a lot of that's along the perimeter, but I think it'll be a good looking site, and that's pretty similar to what we did on the southeast corner of 159th and Oak Park Avenue 2 as a redevelopment site. Some of these are older, there's not too much room, but we really like to see street trees installed and some nice shrubs. So they have asked for waivers on that. We haven't listed them all out. There would be quite a few, especially with the internal lot landscaping. So they obviously can't do a lot of landscaping in an area where there's a lot of vehicles circulating through the site. So they filled in what they could, but there are some waivers there, just kind of due to it being an existing site. Architecturally, the main change here is really going to be with the detail center. So this really provides a front to this site on Oak Park Avenue. Right now, it's just the entrance to the car wash, really, that you can see. So this really gives you a kind of nice new building, a nice new facade there along Oak Park Avenue. It'll have kind of a mezzanine, second floor mezzanine look to it that kind of fits with the existing canopy and the existing site there. And the convenience store building is going to continue basically what's out there right now with brick along the base and kind of a banding up on top. Signage wise, they have a Delta Sonic logo going on that new detail frontage, and they have some directional signs that they're installing here as well above what they have now. So they have a detailing sign there to clarify that that's the detailing entrance. They have also have new kind of lane signs for the car wash when you go to enter the car wash. So they have the car wash lanes as well as a designation for the unlimited car wash members, their monthly membership. And so those are a little bit larger than what we normally allow for directional signs. The goal here again was really to help site circulation. So some of those signs, you want people getting in the right lane as early as they can, and sometimes that's even when they're not even on the site yet. So the hope was to get those a little bit bigger so the words are readable from across the site, but we tried to limit the size of those as much as possible. They revised the initial oval directional signs, so those are a little bit smaller than they were previously. They went from 28 square feet to 17.55, so we've revised that. Parking wise, there's a significant parking shortage on this site for their employees, so they only have an existing 4 spaces, but 2 of those are gonna be converted to a new ADA space in compliance with the ADA. But using kind of our zoning code as a guide, there would actually need to be 19 parking spaces on this site, mostly for employees. So they've had a long-standing parking agreement with the Trinity Lutheran Church, and that's been continued at least through 2022. They have that contract signed, and they have a good relationship there. That helps Delta Sonic, but also provides some financial assistance and some use for that parking lot at Trinity Lutheran. That's typically only used kind of one day out of the week, so to capacity. So they've provided that. In terms of the customers on the site, the convenience store there is fairly small. It's not really one you'd stop by in the morning to grab your coffee and snacks. It's really there more for somebody who's already getting a car wash or filling up on gas or getting a detail that needs to grab something quick and go. So for the most part, most of the people using that convenience store and that retail space are going to likely be parked at a pump, or if they do need to run inside after a car wash, there's a couple parking spaces that'll be left there as well. But again, most of those customers will probably be at a pump already. Lighting wise, they're replacing the lighting on the site as well to be compliant with our current lighting standards. So these will be downcast, full cutoff fixtures on the site. So they'll be adding a few and then replacing some of the fixtures on the current poles. And that's it for the staff report. This is really, again, it's the special use permit, site plan approval. There's the variations for the setbacks and the signs, and the parking spaces, and then there's the Plat easement for the public sidewalk. That's it.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Thanks, Dan. Commission, do you have any comments or discussion on this matter at this time? Please speak up. Hearing none, I will move on. Does the petitioner wish to add any comments at this time?
Jeremy Brooks from Delta Sonic. We have no comments at this time.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Staff, is there anyone else from the public wishing to comment on this item?
No, there's not.
And one last time, Commission, is there any further discussion on this matter? Please speak up at this time. Okay, hearing none, we will move on. If there are no further questions or discussion, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Gatto, so moved. This is
Is there a second?
Commissioner Easton, that motion.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Gatto, seconded by Commissioner Aitchison. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Staff, please review the standards for these requests.
Sure. First is these standards for a special use. These really relate to how it relates to the surrounding properties. It's an existing site, it's already developed, so this is really just some small expansion of the existing buildings on the site, as well as some positive changes to the overall site circulation, so, the summary of the special use standards. For the standards for a variation, there's really just the kind of main three that need to be met by state statute. And again, this is an existing site being redeveloped. There's some limited ability to expand size, dimensions, and setbacks. So overall, they've mitigated and met the code's intent to the greatest extent possible within their existing site and their existing development. So that's the general, the overview of those variations as well there. That's it for the standards.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Thank you for going over the standards, Dan. There are 4 motions on this item for site plan, variations, a special use permit, and the final plat. May I have the first motion for site plan approval?
Commissioner Gaskell, I make a motion to grant the petitioner James Bocchioli on behalf of South Sonic Car Wash Systems Incorporated, a site plan amendment to modify the South Sonic Automobile Service Station convenience store and car wash at 6800 West 159th Street in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District in accordance with the plans submitted and listed herein, subject to the conditions as listed in the June 18, 2020 staff report.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Vick, and I second that motion.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Vick. Secretary may have a roll call.
Manny,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. This is Chairman Gray. The motion carries. May I have a second motion for variation approval?
This is Commissioner Engel. I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the village board at 4, as listed in the June 18th, 2020 staff report, the petitioner, James Bovioli, on property located at 68 9th Street, in the B3 zoning district. Enhancement with your end and being back as proposed by subject 2020.
Commissioner Manny, I second that motion.
This is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Secretary may I have a roll call.
Engel,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. This is Chairman Gray. The motion is carried. May I have a third motion for special use permit approval?
This is Commissioner Engel. I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the village board grant an amendment to existing special use permit ordinance number 88-0-016, Petitioner James Bovioli on behalf of Delphi Car Wash Incorporated to permit automobile service convenience at 6800 9th Street, zoning district, in accordance with the plans submitted and listed herein, and adopt finding of fact as proposed by village staff, subject to the condition as listed in 2020 staff.
I second that. This is Commissioner Gatto. I second that motion.
This is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Stanton, seconded by Commissioner Gatto. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Manny,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Engel,
Yeah.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. This is Chairman Gray. The motion is carried. May I have the final motion for final plat approval?
This is Commissioner Easton. I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant approval to the petitioner, James Foglioli, on behalf of Sales and Car Wash System, Inc., a final plat of easement for public sidewalks to be installed on private property at 6800 159th Street in accordance with the final plat submitted and listed herein, subject to the condition as listed in the June 18th, 2020 staff report.
Commissioner Gaskell, second.
This is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Aitchison, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. This is Chairman Gray. This item will go to the village board for approval or first reading, for approval on Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. So Jeremy, thank you for attending tonight, and please take note of the Tuesday, July 7th, 2020 meeting information, and you can get information from the staff on how you can attend. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. We're going to move on to item number 3. The third item on tonight's agenda is workshop and public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Krunal Patel on behalf of Avocado Theory Inc., the property owner, variations from the zoning code to allow for the redevelopment and expansion of the property located at 17302 Oak Park Avenue in the DC downtown core zoning district for a mixed-use property with a restaurant and second-floor apartment. Site plan approval and plat of easement are also being requested. Site plan approval and a final plat approval will also be reviewed with this item. We will begin with the workshop discussion. Staff, please make your presentation.
Sure, yeah, so this is gonna be a combined workshop public hearing. It's, if for some reason the plan commission, feels like something would need to be changed and they're not comfortable voting, you guys always have that right to do that, but we combine these to kind of expedite it for the petitioner, who's looking to, get under construction and get this open as soon as possible. Especially with the patio in these days that he's got planned here, I think it'll be a good addition to the downtown. So, again, this is an image of just kind of what we're working towards here is their final project. Some of the images here were updated compared to what's in the staff report. So the images that are in the PowerPoint are kind of the most updated ones. There's a few other details they added in and color changes to make it more accurate to what will actually be built out there. So slightly different, as you can kind of see, there's some bracketing up on the gable in the front, as well as some color changes to the siding, the trim, and the windows. The existing site is the old Electric Blue DJ building, or was most recently the Electric Blue DJ. The site actually was constructed in 1913 for a butcher shop, and that's kind of what it's historically been known as or for. It is listed in the legacy plan as a historically significant property. Not much of that has to do with the architecture, because if you look at the existing site, there's not much to it, which is kind of a product of its time. It's fairly utilitarian, and built to, it was always built to be a commercial building, but didn't have too much architectural detail at that time. So there was originally a porch on it, and normally I like to dig up historic photos with our local historic preservation, historic downtown Tinley people. They weren't able to find any kind of good ones. There was only kind of one that kind of showed the porch and like a little bit of the roof, so I didn't have too much to show you there. But the brick veneer facade that's on there was installed around the 1970s, and they believe that's probably when they took off kind of the front porch area as well. So it kind of had a residential look to it, but it was actually always built as a commercial building there. The zoning of this is zoned DC, which is our downtown core, and then our legacy district. The properties that are to the south, that's the Park Oaks mixed-use building. There's commercial on the first floor, and then condos above that. And there's a municipally owned public parking lot as well that surrounds that Park Oaks building that's zoned downtown core. To the east of this is the We're Nuts About Mutts building that is mixed use and has a residential unit in it as well. And then Durbin's is also that's to the east. And then Durbin's is also kind of to the east, but diagonal a little bit to the north. And that's in the downtown Flex district. To the west of this is zoned R4, and that's our single-family residential zoning, so not in the legacy district there. The lot to the west of this is vacant, but the owners of that lot are actively pursuing a permit for a new single-family home on that lot right now. So they actually went before the ZBA, I believe, for a masonry variation. They were granted, so I believe they're pursuing designing those kind of final plans for that lot for a single-family home. The downtown core district, again, is described as a district that consists of high density and height with the greatest variety of uses. Street frontages have a steady street plantings and pedestrian amenities, and buildings form a continuous street wall set along wide sidewalks. So it's really looking for kind of an urban core vibe there. As a bit of a background on kind of the biggest request that they're here before you today is really to maintain its heritage site status. The legacy code has a limit on legacy or on heritage sites, which were sites that were developed prior to the legacy code and don't meet all of the redevelopment standards of the legacy code. So they're allowed to maintain the use and the site as it existed before that. However, there are limits to that, and they limit basically the investment into the property at 50% of the property's market value. So, and that's any voluntary private owner initiated improvement. So if it's a code improvement, like you need to install sprinklers, that doesn't count towards it. But tenant build outs, additions, facade changes, things that are kind of voluntary and not required, those do count towards that. So this project goes kind of well beyond that 50%. But again, the avocado theory structure, the facade improvements, the interior build out, all voluntary. But the petitioner is seeking that variation from the 50% threshold, so that way they can do this work. They bought this thinking they could make that existing site work, but kind of working through with the architect, they realized they needed some more space to really get the seating, the restaurant, the kitchen, ADA compliant bathrooms, and kind of everything they were looking for. Additionally, some of the tax issues came up with being a standalone commercial building, so with this project, they're pursuing adding a second floor apartment to this as well. So that's really what puts them over the threshold. However, the existing building is structurally sound. It's in good condition. So they're looking to just kind of utilize the existing building that was, again, noted as historically significant, kind of use that scale to kind of build off that, so that way they can put their restaurant in there. The existing restaurant that's looking to go in there is proposed by the petitioner, who will run the restaurant, also owns the property, already purchased it. He'll be opening Avocado Theory, so it's an avocado-based restaurant, obviously. A lot of different menu items on the list, including avocado toast, sushi, wraps, salads, everything with guacamole. The petitioner is an entrepreneur, so he's actually sells guacamole at our farmers market, and that's kind of where this started. Was he wanted to open a restaurant, and some of his highest sales were actually at the Tinley Park Farmers Market. So this is a pretty cool success story of our farmers market actually growing from, a farmers market stand to an actual bricks and mortar restaurant here. So there'll be more than just avocado-based stuff. I think it's really kind of a health food-based vision here, but a lot of it'll have an avocado kind of base to it. So that's mostly, that'll be the entire first floor of the restaurant, and he's really looking for kind of an outdoor open patio area, and that was the discussion before COVID-19 pandemic, and then now, so even more. I think you'd see a need for that, and that's really there. The expansion will be to the south, so that really expands the storefront of this lot, and takes up kind of more lot width. And then it also, again, provides kind of an activated space for our street. So you kind of see it with SIP, has a patio that's out in front now, SIP Wine Bar, Mickey's, Holstein's, and Primal Cut. They all have kind of those small patios out in front that kind of create a cool atmosphere for a downtown. So that's what they're looking to do here as well. It will be part of the structure of the building, but it'll be pretty open air, but it'll be attached to the building, so that way they can kind of use it year-round as seating as well. So the second floor, again, they're adding an 800 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment there that provides them some additional rent and income on the property. It's also provides them some tax benefits through Cook County. So we're all pretty aware of, the Cook County the tax problems, especially on standalone commercial buildings. They get hit pretty hard. So making this mixed use gives them a little bit of a break there, also provides them some additional income. Without that apartment and without that break, it would be pretty hard to run almost any commercial business out of here and make a profit and pay for those taxes. So this really helps him make this project work and be successful going forward. The site plan's gonna stay close to what's out there now, but obviously some changes with the additions in the building. So the additions on the building are going into existing paved areas there right now. That'll expand to the west as well as to the south of the building. There'll be a drive aisle to the west of the building, or there's a drive aisle that you enter the site that's shared with the public parking lot to the south of the building, so that's kind of the main entrance to this. There's kind of cross-access between that parking lot and then this site. There'll be parking stalls that run along the north of that drive aisle, and then there's another drive aisle that runs north and south that's west of the building. You can see there that has some additional parking stalls off it as well. So they are going to be moving, Comet electric pole that's out there as part of this, adding curbing and landscaping again. You can see the proposed addition there, which is to the south is the patio, as well as some room for, again, the bathrooms and the back of house kitchen to be expanded. So there's some existing engineering comments. So this approval in the motions, we have recommended for engineering to be finalized through the village engineer and MWRD. So we've conditioned all the approvals on that. Similar to the other one, the last project with Delta Sonic, there's a Plat easement with this project as well, but this one deals more with cross-access. So our legacy plan kind of encourages dedication of shared drive aisles and kind of an alley system between properties. This helps so each property doesn't need to have its own curb cut along Oak Park Avenue, which kind of throws off the rhythm of what you're looking for in a downtown. So if you do the cross access, it allows again for more buildable space kind of throughout the downtown as well. So we're platting the cross access to the south drive aisle that connects to village property and that public parking lot, and then it's run north and south, so that way if the properties to the north of this ever develop, they can connect into the system that works its way all the way south down past Park Oaks, Wyman's, and Ed and Joe's. So that's all kind of connected, and this will just continue that cross-access connection to the north. The parking will remain private, so those will be, the parking stalls on the site are just for Avocado Theory and their tenants, but there will be access through the site. Landscaping wise, again, with most stuff in the downtown, there's only kind of so much site there, and so much you can do with the landscaping. So they've added in kind of where they can, where there is space, landscaping, primarily shrubs, but a few trees as well throughout the site. They're removing a couple trees on the site. I believe there's 4, but 2 of those really don't seem like they were ever planned. They've kind of been ill-maintained over the years. And I believe they may have already removed those, just as they've kind of become maintenance issues that were out there. So these ones will be a little bit more purposeful and hopefully maintained a little bit better. I know one of the trees was even growing right up against the foundation of the building, so they had to remove that fairly quickly to make sure there wasn't any issues. Again, most of these plantings, they've used a variety of plantings, a variety of trees, kind of to help brighten up the site where they can. The one waiver they're looking for here, though, is the parkway tree waiver. So our code requires that they add a parkway tree in some way to the parkway that's out there. They've asked for the waiver. They try to make it work. However, there's a movable planter that's out there in front, and then there's also a manhole for, I believe, the sanitary sewers, and then a light pole as well. So the only thing that can really move there is the planter out of those, and that still provides some issues at that location. It's really close. Really, there's sites between 2 driveways right now. There's also the light that's right there. So any trees gonna be kind of blocking some views, blocking the light. Would also be smack dab in front of their door and their sign on this site. So from that standpoint, it doesn't work for them either. So they've asked for that one waiver on the landscaping. Architecturally I'll say we worked pretty extensively with the architect on this. He's on the line and maybe can speak to it a little bit, but we went through a number of iterations on this to kind of make it look right, look like it fits in our downtown. So again, some of this has been tweaked a little bit, but this is the pictures that are up here are generally what it's gonna look like. That east elevation faces Oak Park Avenue, so that's really kind of one of the most important ones, I think, that we were looking at. There's the existing facade that's there, and then as you look to the left of the image, or you go south on the site, that'll be the new patio addition. So those will be kind of roll-up garage doors on the bottom, and then the top panels of those doors will either be solid or they'll be tilt up and can open out as well. So that continues along the south elevation as well. So when you get all those garage doors opened up, it'll be a pretty open space there, even though it's still enclosed. Architecturally, it looks like it's attached to the building. It'll be a pretty cool open patio area. They have some skylights on the property as well that are on the roof to bring in some sunlight and really kind of bring together, again, his health theme. That south elevation also has a wall, kind of an accent wall, and that'll kind of be the second most visible elevation. There'll be a secondary entrance to the property that goes in off the patio. That wall's not green, it just looks like it in that photo, but I have some 3D renderings that were put together that maybe show that a little bit better here. And again, these are the updated renderings, so a little bit different than what's in your packet. And this kind of shows the front elevation as well as the north elevation. The north elevation's kind of, there's windows in there, but that really faces kind of the single-family residential homes that are to the north of this right now, and that could be redeveloped in the near future. Those are kind of prime redevelopment sites, so there's not too much going on here, but it's all made to kind of look like it belongs, like it was one building built at one time. Right now, it's currently a blank wall, so this will at least add some kind of breaks and provide some light to the restaurant as well as the second floor apartment. Here's another 3D rendering so you can kind of see they have a pergola on that south side as well over the entrance to kind of give it a more inviting area where people might be waiting or hanging out. They have the pergola there, the landscaping, and then the front entrance. And you can kind of see so that accent wall will have a different color brick than the rest of the base of the building has kind of the brick knee wall that matches the front facade, but then they kind of want to do a separate accent wall with maybe a different style brick there. So this is a close rendering, one that kind of matches the trim that's on the building. It'll bring that color to that wall. So, the roof lines on these was something that took a little bit of finessing between the architects, and we came up with this. It took quite a few kind of trials here to make it work. The way it's kind of the reason why it looks like it does and the way it was designed was really to hide the mechanical equipment on the rooftop. So all the mechanical equipment's on the kind of in the center of that second floor roof. And it's kind of hidden by a mansard roof that wraps around it. So most of the other versions of this had some kind of awkward look to it, where you were either going to see the mechanical equipment or the roof wasn't gonna really be uniform to the bottom, so. But I think the architect came up with a good option there for the second floor. That really tied it together. Signage wise, they have, this kind of shows it the best, so I don't have all the details for the sizes of these yet, but they'll meet our current legacy code signage requirements, but they're gonna do a flat wall sign, which I think fits into that front gable pretty well, and then they'll do a blade or projecting sign off the side of it as well. That'll really kind of function to catch, so traffic driving on Oak Park Avenue and pedestrians can kind of see it as they're walking. And I think that's a pretty good look for the signage. Parking, the site is actually only required one parking spot, so street level commercial spaces don't require any, and they're really can use the existing parking that's in the downtown, either the Metro lots or the various parking lots, like to the south of this, behind the Park Oaks building, on street parking. And then again, the Metro lots open to the public after 10 o'clock. So that's really the thought process behind that, is not to overdo our downtown with parking lots, especially on restaurants that can have some demand, but let them kind of utilize those existing large parking lots that are out there. The petitioner does have some desire to have some parking stalls on the site, though. There's existing parking there, so if he'd like to have some stalls, at least for his employees, himself, maybe some customers that could park there, or if they're getting to go or pick up orders, we'll have a quick nearby place there they can park on the site. The only space that's required on this is one dedicated space for the apartment. That is a variation that's being requested, because it's supposed to be a enclosed space within the confines of the building. Obviously, that it doesn't really make much financial sense to kind of enclose one parking space out here. It would present some kind of architectural challenges too, to make that look, again, like it belongs and isn't just a kind of tacked on a garage. So they've requested a variation for that, just to allow the one stall to be, it'll be dedicated, but can be open air and not enclosed. So lighting wise, they're also they're primarily using gooseneck lights for the sign, and barn style kind of gooseneck fixtures that you see throughout the downtown now. I think they're using the same or very close to the same fixture as Sip Wine Bar used, and as Mickey's uses. And then there'll be one kind of column light out in their parking lot as well to illuminate it. So there's no lighting on the north side of the site here, because those are single family residential homes right now. We didn't want to shine any light over there. There is some separation with the driveway that separates the two sites, but we're trying to limit any kind of light spillage on that side of the property. So the first variation, again, this is that they're requesting is that 50% threshold for the site, for improvements going over 50%. This would be the second request of this type that would keep the site as a heritage site. The first one was the vet clinic at Tinley Park, and when we brought that before you guys, we kind of came up with some standards or some considerations for this that we really want to look at, and those are the condition of the existing building, and in this case, the building's in sound condition, especially for being over 100 years old, and we think it's worth preserving just from a historic, economic, and environmental perspective. So they're really working with that existing building, and the additions are really working to complement that existing building. The other consideration we're looking at is the ownership of the property. Is it owner occupied, or is it really just an investment for rent property? And in this case, the new owner has purchased the property, and that this will be an owner occupied business at this site. The third consideration is the longevity of the existing non-conforming use. Again, the property owner expects to occupy this long-term. The improvements to convert the structure to a restaurant will remain with the building, and they add value to that site regardless of whether that restaurant remains or if he changes up the style of the restaurant. It's really kind of a permanent investment into that property. The fourth consideration's the ability for the property to be converted to function as mixed use. So in this case, they actually are moving closer to what the code wants, and that's them adding a second floor apartment here. So with the vet clinic, they weren't able to kind of make that work and add a residential unit on that site yet. But with this one, they're at least, it's just one unit, but that's one more unit in the downtown that kind of helps bring the density to that downtown core. So they've moved closer to the code there and closer to the redevelopment standards as they can with it. The last consideration is the impact of the continuation of the non-conforming use on the redevelopment potential of the area. So basically not hindering redevelopment of other properties. Really to the north of this, there's two single-family homes that could be redeveloped in the near future that are a little bit older. Besides that, this doesn't really hurt any redevelopment of those properties though, and actually can help it with the cross access that's going to be provided. And again, this is noted as a historically significant building in the legacy plan. So while it really doesn't have any architectural significance, it is something I think we want to look to preserve some of our past buildings and build upon them if we can. So that really summarizes that variation. That's kind of the most significant thing they're asking for. And the goal of this requirement in the legacy plan is really so people aren't investing in bad buildings, putting good money into bad sites. Something that you might want to see torn down that really doesn't fit with the long-term vision that we want to see out there. So that's kind of what that requirement's for. But there are some existing sites out there that maybe do have some consideration that you want to keep them, that you want to expand, and so that's what they've requested here. The other two variations are the minimum height of the addition. So any additions would need to meet the redevelopment standards in the code, and there's a minimum height of 3 stories. Obviously, they're trying to keep within the kind of the current, stick with the current building architecture and the current building scale. So really, their additions are again meant to complement that existing building. So a 3-story addition on the front part of this that is 1 story would look pretty goofy. So that's just with them reusing the site and with these big additions as a necessary variation request. And then lastly is that covered parking request, asking for the one required residential space to not be covered parking and to allow it to be open to the sky. So for the workshop side, we have a discussion on those as well. So that's it for the staff report.
Okay, this is Chairman Bray. Thank you, Dan. Commission, do you have any comments or discussion on the workshop portion of this request at this time? Commissioner Lucas Engel.
All I'd say is it looks great, and I think it'll be a great addition to Oak Park Avenue.
Okay, Commissioner Eduardo Manning.
Yes, I think and the overall architecture is gonna look, pretty nice, and the landscaping, also, I do notice, I think that waiver from banning that tree would be problematic, the landmark, manhole and other things. But I think it would be a great addition to Tinley Park, and I would also like to appreciate the petitioner to invest into Tinley Park. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Angela Gatto.
I think the building looks great, and I have nothing further.
Okay. Commissioner Marianne Aitchison.
I think the building is going to be a beautiful addition to the Oak Park Avenue, and outside of that, I don't have any comments.
Okay. Commissioner Vick.
Yeah, I would just echo pretty much the rest of the commissioners here in saying that it looks like a really nice building. It'll be a good addition to the downtown area there. I personally have no problems with the landscape waiver for that tree because there is no good way to put something in the front of there. So something that'll be useful and be able to be worked around. So I have no problem with that waiver going in. When it comes down to the other three waivers, they all make sense. They all, there's really no issue to any of these, I believe, with the plans here as presented tonight. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gaskell. Any comments, Commissioner Gaskell? You might have some technical difficulties. My own comments is I basically echo with what the staff has presented and what a lot of the commissioners have said in terms of it's good for Tinley Park and a good renovation on Oak Park Avenue. I think that building is in much of need of a facelift, and I think the architecture, as Commissioner Manny said, looks beautiful. I do like the ramp on the front too for accessibility, and I especially like the patio element, especially with these COVID times. It's really good to have some outdoor eating, and if you get the rollaway doors, as it mentioned in the staff report on the, I believe it was the east and south side, I think that's a very, very important or valuable portion of the building. Last, I'm glad staff laid out that there has been a precedent for one of the waivers in terms of going over 50%. They had the 5 considerations that were well laid out that were applied for another development. So I do appreciate that for clarity, and I agree. I don't have any issues with the waivers. I think this will be a great addition. With that, we will proceed to the public hearing portion right now. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Vick, so moved.
Commissioner Engel, second that motion. This is Chairman Gray, motion made by Commissioner Vick, seconded by Commissioner Engel. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. Staff, do you have anything else to add to this prior to the public?
No, I'll just say it's been a pleasure working with the petitioner. He's very passionate, and I think he's very excited to open this restaurant. So I think this will be a great addition in terms of our restaurant lineup that we have in town. I don't think I know of anything like this, so it's fairly unique, and I'm excited to get it open and go try some of their food there.
Okay, excellent. This is Commissioner Gray again, or Chairman Gray. Commission, do you have any other comments or discussion on this matter at this time? Hearing none, I will move to the petitioner. Does the petitioner wish to add any comments at this time?
No, I don't have any comment at this time. Thank you.
And is this Mr. Patel?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Mr. Patel. Staff, is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item?
No, there's not.
Okay. I hear none then. We'll move on. Commission, last chance. Is there any other further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, that there's no further questions or discussion, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Manning, so moved.
This is Commissioner Engel, expecting that motion.
Chairman Gray, motion made by Commissioner Manning, seconded by Commissioner Engel. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Staff, please review the standards for these requests.
Sure, so the standards are just for the variation on this one. Again, there's the kind of 3 statutory ones we go over, that the property can't yield a reasonable return. Again, this is the reuse of an existing building that's over 100 years in age. So we're working within those confines. And again, that leads to the second standard, which is the unique circumstances of this. Again, it being an existing building identified in the legacy plan, over 100 years old, and on a relatively small site that doesn't leave too much opportunity for full redevelopment of the site. So without these variations, it's likely the building would have to be torn down, and I'm not exactly sure what could be redeveloped on that small site. So lastly is that it doesn't change the character of the area, and again, I think this fits right in with the downtown and really brings this site closer into conformance with the vision in the plan for the downtown. So that's it for the standards.
Okay, thank you, Dan. This is Chairman Gray. There are 3 motions on this item for site plan approval, variations, and the final plat. May I have the first motion for site plan approval?
This is Commissioner Gatto. I'd like to make a motion to grant the petitioner, Tinley Park on behalf of Avocado Theory, Inc., property owner, a site plan amendment to modify the property located at 17302 Oak Park Avenue in the DC Downtown Core zoning district in accordance with the plans submitted and listed herein, subject to the conditions as listed in the June 18th, 2020 staff report.
Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Aitchison. I second that motion.
This is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Gatto, seconded by Commissioner Aitchison. Secretary may have a roll call.
Manny,
Yeah.
Vic,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell, Engel,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes.
Yes. This is Chairman Gray. Okay, motion is carried. May I have a second motion for variation approval? May I have...
I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the 3 variations as listed in June 18th staff report. Pardon me? Where was I? Staff reports to the petitioner, Gubernatorial Disaster on behalf of Avocado Theory Incorporated, property owner, at the property located at 17302 Oak Park Avenue in the DC Downtown Core zoning district in accordance with the plans submitted and listed herein and adopt the findings of fact proposed to the village staff in the staff report.
Commissioner Vick, second that.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Vick. Secretary may I have a roll call.
Engel,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. This is Chairman Gray. The motion is carried. May I have the final motion for plat approval?
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll make a motion to recommend that the village board grant approval to the petitioner, Bernal Patel, on behalf of Avocado Fury Incorporated. Final plat of easement for public cross access to be granted on the property of 17302 Oak Park Avenue. And of course, the final plat submitted and listed in your end, subject to the condition as listed in the June 18, 2020 staff report.
This is Commissioner Manning. I second that motion.
This is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Secretary may I have a roll call.
Manny,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Engel, Engel,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. This is Chairman Gray. The motion is carried. This item will go to the village board for approval on Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. So Mr. Patel, please make note of the Tuesday, July 7th, 2020 date and get with staff on how you can attend. And thanks again for bringing this project to Tinley Park.
Yeah, thank you. We are really excited, and like as Dan mentioned, we started last year selling guacamole, and we are doing 5 farmers market. It was a pretty unique idea, and the Tinley Park was one of the best market, and that's what we choose to be. So we are excited. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for being here.
This is Al Lawrence, I'm the architect, and I just want to thank everybody for their time, and Dan and Paula for working diligently with us to come up with a real nice design for your space, for your city.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate the kind words. The fourth and final item on tonight's agenda is a workshop to consider a proposed text amendment to certain sections of the Tinley Park zoning ordinance to allow for adult use cannabis dispensing organizations in the B2 and B3 zoning districts as a special use with certain restrictions and eliminate medical cannabis cultivation facilities as a special use in the ORI district. Medical cannabis dispensing organizations will still be allowed in the M1 district, but will not be allowed to sell adult use cannabis at those locations. We will begin with an overview of the project and a workshop discussion. Staff, please make your presentation on this item.
Good evening, this is Paula. I just want to make a statement about the prior project. Dan did an excellent job working on this project, working very closely with the architect, and I just wanted to, since I'm not there, give kudos to his good work. So kudos to you, Dan.
Thanks.
I can see if you're smiling or not. I'm watching the live stream. All right, so what we're talking about this evening, this is the workshop for providing for adult cannabis dispensaries in the village. As most of you are probably aware, the Public Act was adopted about this time last year, June 25th, 2019. It went into effect this past January. The village had adopted a moratorium objectives, which, as the chairman stated, it does allow for possession and private use of cannabis for Illinois residents over 21 years of age. Staff, along with direction from the board, began to research the possibility of providing for adult use business establishments in the village. 2 citizen surveys were conducted without real clear direction from either of those. It's an opinion that I think everyone has a strong opinion one way or another. However, on March 3rd, the village board did direct staff to begin to look at the necessary amendments to accommodate adult use dispensary organizations. Right now, we have the ability, next slide, please. Right now, we have the ability to, next slide, please. Maybe oh, I'm sorry. Right now, we have medical cannabis provision in our code. We have the medical cannabis dispensary in the M1 district as a special use, and then we also have medical cultivation centers in the ORI as a special use. Some of the unique facets of the act as it stands now, adult use cannabis dispensing organizations and the cultivation centers can include the sale of medical cannabis. Alternatively, though, medical cannabis dispensing facilities, like we allow right now, as well as the cultivation centers, may not include the sale of adult use cannabis without doing something, making some changes in our zoning code. It's also important to know that the Act does not allow us to prohibit medical cannabis dispensing facilities. We have to provide for that. But we can prohibit medical cannabis cultivation centers. So staff, after researching this and working with our attorneys and looking at what other communities similar to the profile of Tinley Park, we are recommending the most prudent action going forward. What we're recommending is allowing the continuation of the medical cannabis dispensing facilities in our M1 as it exists now, knowing that it can't dispense adult cannabis unless we provide a provision for that in our zoning code. Eliminating the medical cannabis cultivation facilities in the ORI, primarily because it can provide for the cultivation of adult recreation uses. And then allow adult use cannabis dispensing organizations per the direction of the village board in the most appropriate zoning districts we have existing in our community right now. And what staff is recommending is looking at our business districts. These dispensaries function as similar to a retail institution, and therefore we began to look at our business districts. Obviously, we want to keep them away from our most restrictive districts, our B1 district, because that's a neighborhood shopping district. And so we looked at the B2 and the B3 as the most appropriate districts, with B3 being our most intense district and providing the best likelihood of attracting a dispensary to it with the provisions that we're going to recommend in our code. Those B3 districts you might be familiar with exist on our major commercial corridors like 159th Street, Harlem Avenue, the Grange Road. We got our Brookside Marketplace down off 191st and Oak Park, Harlem Avenue. And then we have some other B3 areas just north of 167th Street and south of I-80 on Oak Park Avenue. But we also look at the B2 district, and by definition, it's not as clear. It's not as clear as the B3 definition in terms of making sure it's maximizing the distance from neighborhood areas. But the zoning that we have in our village right now, we have very little B2 districts, and the one that we do have is the Brennan Town Shopping Center that's on 159th Street, where function very similarly to a B3 district and do not have the adjacency to retail uses that you would be concerned about when trying to locate adult use cannabis dispensary. As I mentioned, and as actually the model ordinance recommends from IML, we want to provide for these as a special use. This gives the board, the commission, maximum opportunity to condition any anticipated site on restrictions that will mitigate any potential impact. You can go to the next slide, or Dan.
I think I did. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay. I'm just looking at the stream and I'm looking at your water bottle. Sorry. All right. I don't know if it's still up there, but unless I'm not saying something. But the special use standards is the next slide. There we go. That I want to talk about. As with all standards, special uses, we have identified standards that help guide the commission on things that they can consider in looking at a special use and make sure that the unique characteristics of this proposed use does not have any impact on adjacent properties. So staff is recommending some additional standards beyond what you see in our code right now. And I've summarized those. I know it's boring to see a PowerPoint with a lot of text, but I do want to just highlight some of these. So if you were considering an adult use cannabis dispensing facility, these are the things that we are recommending you think about. Certainly the impact on adjacent and planned uses in the area, the total square footage of the proposed structure and security installations of that proposed building. We want to consider the operation, hours of operation, and how many employees and customers are anticipated at the site to make sure that the site can accommodate that with respect to parking and traffic generation. We'll certainly want to look at the signage plan, and I'll discuss in a minute what some of the restrictions are regarding signage for a facility like this. Additionally, we want to make sure that we're maximizing the distance from the public right-of-way to the proposed structure where someone is trying to site one of these dispensaries. And the reason we want to do that is we want to make sure that this facility doesn't dominate the character of the commercial corridor. So we want to look for a site that's going to have a significant setback from the public right-of-way, the commercial corridor. And as I mentioned, we also want to make sure that there's some shared parking opportunities that can handle the parking requirements of the facility. Do you want to go to the next slide, please? In addition to the special use standards, staff is recommending some very specific requirements of an adult use dispensing organization. And a lot of this has to do with separation from dislike uses or uses that could potentially negatively impacted from this use. And so we're looking at a 400-foot separation between the actual structure that the cannabis dispensing organization is located in and the property line of any pre-existing daycare, nursery school, preschool, or other secondary schools in the area. So we want to maximize the separation between those two. We obviously don't want to have one of these dispensaries located in a dwelling unit or within 100 feet of a pre-existing property that's zoned for residential uses. We've also identified frontages that we think are most appropriate for the location of these facilities, and that would be along 159th Street, Harlan Avenue, and LaGrange Road. This again helps us keep it away from residential areas. We want to make sure that this facility is a standalone building, and it's the sole use of that structure. We want to prohibit food consumption or consumption or smoking of cannabis on site. We're also recommending some restriction of operational hours, and that would be Monday through Saturday, 8 to 9, and then on Sundays, noon to 6. No drive-through windows or service. And regarding the signage, we want to be fairly specific about that. We have a wall sign to allow 10 square feet to that, but we want to make sure that there's no electronic message imagery related to cannabis, that would, make it cartoonish or, I guess, irreverent is probably not the best word, but, we're wanting to keep the imagery away from that on these dispensaries. They do need to make sure that there is a text, a sign, on the facilities that make sure that no one under 21 enters the site unless they're there, for the medical cannabis program. If we could go to the next slide, please. Also, any kind of bags or, totes that they carry the product outside of the facility, we want to make sure that they're opaque and they do not display any graphics related to, the content, or what they bought at the store. We also require all the lighting and security cameras that we often do on these special uses. And I guess the last one was just that there is the petitioner has to sign an affidavit that they're complying with all components of this special section in our zoning ordinance. Most importantly, for the direction of the village board, we're looking at only providing for one adult use cannabis dispensing organization, and it will be licensed annually through our business license program. So that kind of summarizes what our expectations are. I don't want to oversimplify it. I think we've done a good job working with our legal, our attorneys, making sure that we are at least as restrictive as the act. We cannot be less restrictive, and that we're consistent with what we're finding in other communities that either have one of these dispensaries in their community or are anticipating it. That concludes my workshop.
Thank you, Paula. This is Chairman Gray. I appreciate the presentation. Is there a petitioner present that would like to add anything?
No, the petitioner is the village. This is all,
Right.
we are the petitioner.
Right, so I wasn't sure if Dan or anybody else wanted to chime in.
Nope.
Hearing none, I will move on to the commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any comments or discussion on this item? I will ask one by one. Commissioner Gatto.
No.
Commissioner Manning.
No comment.
Commissioner Engel.
I agree with the staff's presentation. They did a great job.
Commissioner Aitchison.
No comment at this time?
Commissioner Gaskell.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Commissioner Vick.
I would just like to say that the staff did a great job on this. It always sounds, trying to put a good effort in it to keep this friendly to with the neighborhood, even for people that might not agree with it, that they would still be more accepting of this kind of thing, with the proposals that they've made here. So I think it's really good, and good job to the staff.
Okay. And my own comments, this is Chairman Gray. I agree too. I think the staff did a great job in researching how other places are handling this, and I'm very glad that the Village of Tinley Park is proactive on this, especially with protecting the residential / neighborhood areas to help kind of reduce any negative influence that can happen to the youth. I do like the restrictions with the setbacks and also the designated roads of 159th Street, LaGrange, Harlem. Also the hours of operation and no drive-through. I do think it is great that you don't have cartoon signage because that I think attracts people under 21 and maybe even younger than 10. So I think that's good, as well as the opaque boxes and bags that will be brought out. So I do agree with the diligent work that the Village staff researched to help kind of have a plan So at this time, staff, if you can please review any open items on this request.
Yes, I don't have any open items, Chairman. This is Paula. Just wanted to let everyone know we will take this to a public hearing at our next meeting, and then committee of the whole on July 7th. So I believe it's July 2nd is our next meeting, will be the public hearing, and then July 7th would be committee of the whole, and then it would be reviewed at the village board meeting on July 21st.
Okay. So then, this is Chairman Gray. This was the workshop for this item. As Paul mentioned, there will be a public hearing on this matter at the Thursday, July 2nd, 2020, regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting, and then it'll go to the Committee of the Whole on July 7th, and then July 21st for the Village Board. Staff, do you have any communications for the good of the order at this time?
So we have the meeting on July 2nd. That'll be the next meeting. That one will be, there'll be changes to the meeting format. It'll be open to the public. I believe there'll be a limit of 10 in the room. We'll send out some more information to the commission about setup and layout and timing and everything else. So we'll follow up with you guys, but there will be a change to that format that we'll let you guys know about. Besides that, the boulevard at Central Station and downtown is vertical, so more than just the stairwells that were there for about a month. They have been built. You can see the steel beams and the wood beams and everything going vertical there, so that's exciting, and I think their plan is to be done by this time next year. So it's a good project in the downtown. So and then just thanks everyone for hanging in there these last few months, and our audio visual staff and Barb for setting everything up, and all of you guys for being well prepared for these meetings. So everything's gone pretty smooth. That's it.
Okay, this is Chairman Gray. Thank you, Dan. It will be good to be back in the chambers. If there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
This is Commissioner Engel, so moved.
This is Commissioner Gatto. I second that motion.
This is Chairman Gray. Motion made by Commissioner Stanton, seconded by Commissioner Gatto. I will take a voice vote. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. This meeting is adjourned at 8:48 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.